service.
25 years in my life is still trying to get up this great big hill of hope for a destination. I realized quickly when I knew I should, the world is made up of brotherhood of man, for whatever that means. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed, just to get it all out, it's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And then I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from my lungs, what's going on? I said, hey, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's up, everybody? This is Carina Immer, and this is a Goose Girls takeover, basically. I was really excited to be invited by Greg, Joey, and Bruce to hop on the Great Beyond and just kind of take over for the day. We have a really fun podcast coming up with Alicia Karlin, a really badass professional in the industry, who has a ton of fun stories and interesting insight to share with us today. And there are also some fun announcements that we'd like to share with you. And I actually have my best friend from childhood here with me, Julia Mitri.
Hello, hello.
So the guys asked me who I should have on the podcast with me to do announcements with. Someone that I felt super comfortable with and had fun with. And I immediately thought of Julia because when we were little, we just always thought of having a, radio station together or, and then in later days podcast. So it's a little bit of a childhood dream of hers that we're here today on the podcast, just kind of shaking it out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Very honored to be sitting here with my best friend and just excited to share some really fun announcements.
And that brings us into our announcements, or Goose's announcements. So first off, for all of you Connecticut dwellers, Rick and Matt Campbell of Visudo are playing an acoustic set this weekend on Saturday, May 21st at 1:30 p.m. in Darien, Connecticut, in support of Shatterproof, a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness around addiction and prevention, treatment, and recovery. You can click on the link in the Visudo Instagram bio to learn more about this event and how to attend. So that's really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Some other very obvious fun announcements that everyone has kind of caught on about already is the summer tour. So shout out summer tour.
Woo! Back on the road again.
So they're playing at some really legendary venues. We don't need to tell you guys about it because you probably already know, but obviously Radio City, the legendary Red Rocks, Amphitheater, the Greek in LA. Julia's from LA, so she'll be at the Greek.
I'll be at Red Rocks and the Greek.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, you will
So
be.
come say hi.
Okay. And some really cool festivals like the Thing Festival in Port Townsend, Washington, Sacred Rose in Bridgeview, Illinois, Boston Calling, which is right in our backyard. So many amazing events, and obviously the wonderful Legend Valley in Thornville, just an incredible venue. And last but definitely not least, the Newport Folk Festival. And Julia and I had been going to the Newport Folk Festival for how many years?
I think my first one might have been in 2011.
Wow. And I think my first one with you was 2014.
Yeah. So over 10 years.
Not
Well, for me.
you, 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an incredible festival. Yeah, Julie and I make it every year, and her grandmother actually lives in Newport, so we used to go with her back in the day, and it's just so incredible to see Goose playing there this summer. It's really surreal.
It's so fun because it's a festival that people actually love going to and the artists love going to. It's one that artists return to year after year because it's just so magical. You're literally sitting in the middle of a harbor in beautiful Newport, Rhode Island, quintessential New England, and you're seeing sailboats sail by, listening to Maggie Rogers or Jack White. Like, we've seen incredible acts there.
Yeah.
We saw Dolly Parton there a few years ago.
Oh my God,
that was a
incredible.
surprise guest.
That was incredible.
My Morning Jacket.
Roger Waters.
Waters.
It was My Morning Jacket and Roger Waters.
Yeah.
I think they did a set together. That was really cool.
And it was raining. There was a rainbow.
Yep.
It's just a beautiful festival. If you've never been, I know that they do ticket sales on their own website, so you can't really purchase them anywhere else. But
yeah, and unfortunately we are kind of teasing everyone because the festival is sold out. But there's always ways, as Julia said, to get tickets. Obviously on resale websites and stuff. So if you can make it there. But if not, we'll see you at some of the other shows this summer on tour. So, yeah, I mean, another big announcement is Austin City Limits just announced. Goose is playing 2 weekends there, which is just incredible. What a legendary, I keep on saying legendary, but it's just really legendary.
it really is.
Festival to be playing 2 weekends at, starting October 7th and the following weekend as well. So get your tickets to ACL, as the people say. And yeah, I think that's about it, right, Julia?
Well, I wouldn't end it right there. We have one more exciting thing to touch on, which is Goose released their studio version of Arrow, a song that I've only seen live, actually, at a few shows in the last couple of years. But they finally released it, studio recording, and I've actually never listened to it, or I haven't listened to it yet.
So you've come to the right place, because we can totally play it right now and get a, reaction take of what you think. Should we do it?
I think we should.
Okay, let's go.
Sight stolen again. Oh, falling out all I've been. Oh, it's all written out, sorted out. My arrow slowing down over the air. Slowing down over the air.
Okay, we are back, and Julia just listened to the recording, the studio recording of Arrow, and I have to say I loved watching her face during it because there is a diverse amount of facial expressions, and I think she has a lot to say. So let's just hand it over to her.
Well, I think my facial expressions were probably making up for my want to dance. It's a song that, hearing it live, I'm always just going crazy and dancing, and sitting down and listening to it, you really hear more of the choices made with the instruments, and like hearing a saxophone. Love that.
Yeah.
Rick's voice sounds angelic as always. And it's just one of those songs that you listen to and like, no matter how you're feeling, you feel better after you hear it.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. And also I really like the diversification of moods throughout the song, because as you say, it really just makes you want to dance and flail your arms and really freely express yourself. But then in the bridge, when there's that quiet moment with the piano and it's just kind of Rick, the piano, and silence. It's really powerful because Julie and I were just talking about how it kind of reminds us of that moment at a party when you're dancing so much and having a wonderfully fun time, and then you kind of take a break and go to the bathroom or go into a more quiet area just to kind of gather yourself and collect yourself, and it's kind of that muted feeling. Yeah, but in a very good way, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean, Julia?
I love the way that you just explained that. I think everyone can relate to that feeling of hearing the music and feeling like the adrenaline going through your body, but then also feeling like when you take a step back from it and you're just buzzing.
Which is also a really positive feeling when you step back for a moment, just to kind of have a moment to yourself.
Yeah, it gives you perspective, and I'm excited for everyone to get to listen to it.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for listening in on the news and our little mini review of Arrow here. And we're going to dive in now to my interview with Alicia Karlin. So I hope everybody enjoys that. And thanks, Julia, for coming in today to, fluff my feathers.
Thank you for having me. I hope I can come back one day.
We'll see about that.
So I run to the river, it was bleeding, I run to the sea. It was bleeding, I run to the sea. It was bleeding, Lord, on that day. So I run to the river, and it was boiling, I run to the sea. And it was boiling, I run to the sea. It was boiling, Lord, on that day. So I run to the Lord, please help me, Lord. Don't you see I need you, Lord? Don't you see me down here praying, Lord?
Okay, we are live.
Hi.
Hi. So this is the Goose Girls Takeover, as the great Beyond likes to say. And I am Carina Immer. I don't know if many of you know me, but besides being Rick of Goose's partner, I'm also a businesswoman. And I'm here today to interview a really badass businesswoman in the industry, Alicia Karlin.
Thank you. Hi. And also, let's not forget, you've also written treatments for the band's video, among other things. You're not just a partner, you're an active member of the crew.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Creative woman.
Yes, I like to dabble here and there. But yeah, so how's it going, Alicia?
Good. Just been traveling a bunch. I'm in New York right now. It's a beautiful spring day. Things are good.
Good. And what brings you to New York? Business or pleasure, both?
business. I am a tour promoter at AEG, and we have the opening show of Forest Hill Stadium this weekend with Rex Orange County. So that's tomorrow, Saturday, May 14th.
Amazing. Little plug there. So before we get into stuff, tell us about what you do at AEG. I mean, obviously you have a lot of things going on between Lively, Electric Forest, and AEG, but if you were to give like a super, high level overview of what you're doing in the industry.
Sure. I have been with AEG kind of on and off throughout my career since 2006. Started there as Don Strasberg's assistant, opened up the AEG Denver office, and then moved over to a company called Madison House and Madison House Presents, which we created Electric Forest Festival at Madison House Presents. And then in 2014, Madison House Presents was acquired by AEG. So I came back and have been working on the promoter side. I book Electric Forest Festival. I book all the talent on there. And I moved to LA in January of 2020. Great time to pick up your life and move, and started working for the global touring team there as a tour promoter. So basically working with artists of all size and working with them kind of like soup to nuts on all of their touring.
Nice. Yeah, I was thinking LA is definitely the spot to be like in the industry, compared to Denver. You think it's a lot more rich?
Different. I think there, as far as hubs go, New York, LA, Nashville, and then Denver, of course, is very central to most artists touring in North America. So it's a great place. And I was there for 15 years. But it was kind of time for a change. And the headquarters is in LA, and the global touring team is based out of LA and New York. And felt like a great time to try something different.
Awesome. Yeah, when I first met you, I think 2 years ago now, I was kind of like a mix of intimidated and also really inspired, just because you have so much going on and you're building so much and you're so well connected and you're, working so hard. So when Greg and Bruce asked me who I wanted to have on today for, an industry interview, I was like, obviously Alicia Karlin,
Oh my
girl
God.
has a lot to say. Yeah, no. So I'm really excited to dig into these things. And
but shortly thereafter, you weren't intimidated anymore, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first moment meeting you, I was, wow, like, who is this woman? But then, yeah, you were awesome. Very relatable. But no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I have to say, I did watch the Electric Forest video this morning. What is it called? Like 10,000 lights or something, or
it's called the mini documentary. Oh man, now I'm gonna have to look at what it's called.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I call it the Electric Forest documentary.
That's what I searched on YouTube because I've heard about it and I was like, I gotta watch this video before I hop on here, because full disclosure, I have not been to Electric Forest before, but yeah,
a million shining lights.
A million shining lights. That's it. Yeah, and obviously Goose was supposed to play there, during the COVID lockdown, but that was canceled, so that was a bummer. But I was planning going then.
Yeah, 2020, the year that it never happened.
The year that nothing ever happened, but a lot happened at the same time. But yeah, so I watched this video, just kind of, I didn't really have any preconceived notions in mind. I was just like, let's just watch this video about Electric Forest. And I don't know what's going on, if I'm like hormonal, but I was crying like a baby. Is that like a normal thing? Like,
yeah, it is. It's normal. Everybody cries.
And I haven't even been there before. So
I know, it's just it's an inspiring, I mean, you've been to a lot of like places, right, in a lot of festivals, and there really isn't anything like it at least in North America. I've been to festivals overseas that have like different elements, and I think it's just a really special place. I think you can feel kind of the community from watching that video, and just understand that it's about more than just music. There's art, there's connection. There's just a lot happening that is really different. And, 2020 would have been our 10-year anniversary. So this June will be the actual, 10-year, finally, 12 years later.
Wow. That's huge. And yeah, I mean, I did have one close friend in high school, and her boyfriend would drive all the way out to, Electric Forest every summer. And that's a huge drive from Connecticut. And I was just so
liberal parents of theirs.
Yeah, I guess so. But I was so perplexed. I was like, wow, someone can really be obsessed with a festival that much. And I just never understood. But it seems like I think it's pretty normal for a band to have a following like that, but for a festival and a place to have a following like that and to sell out before the lineup is even announced is just crazy. So
really, it's definitely a special place, and it has, the forest in the middle of the festival has a lot of really cool meaning for a lot of people. A lot of people have been going for so long. We have a loyalty program, and our 6 in the Forest program is part of our loyalty, which means you've gone to at least 6 Electric Forests. Now, mind you, there's only been 9 that have happened thus far, and so this year will be the 10th, but there's multiple thousands of people who are 6 in the Forest. So I think that's really, really cool, and definitely speaks to that it is way more about the vibe. It's kind of like I grew up going to summer camp, sleepaway summer camp, and my friends, we're almost 40, and I have friends who've come to every single one, and they have kids, and even for me working, like my group of friends, they always come. And so I think there's just something about it. And also being in Northwest Michigan in the summer right before July 4th, it just has like a great nostalgia American vibe of like summertime.
Yes. Wow. You just brought me there. Yeah. And so I've always wondered, just for music festivals in general, but especially for Electric Forest, just with how powerful it's become and, what it's grown to be. But so very, very high level question, and this may be a silly question, but what goes into making the lineup? Are you looking a lot at metrics and seeing what bands are having growth, who's up and coming? Okay, this is a good business decision to have them here, and obviously I like the music, but kind of adding that in? Or is it mostly your team just kind of sitting down and throwing in names in the hat of groups that you're just personally enjoying and you kind of want to put them up?
Not a silly question. So we partner with Insomniac on Electric Forest, which is also really interesting because Madison House Presents and Insomniac were 2 independent companies back when Electric Forest started in 2011. And then Insomniac was acquired by Live Nation, and Madison House Presents was acquired by AEG for some background music industry insider stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I've always worked with a team member at Insomniac on the music. And of course, they are, one of the largest electronic music promoters in the world. They have festivals everywhere. And so it's really fun getting to work with them. And I've worked with one guy over there, Carlos, for many years. And now I work with a guy named Simon. And so we collaborate on ideas. We make a huge list. Of course, you look at metrics, you look at, streams, you look at ticket sales, but also there's just a lot more to it than that. It's a huge puzzle with so many stages. We have about 10 stages when everything is all said and done. We have our main stage. String Cheese Incident is a staple on the lineup, and they play, a couple of big shows every weekend, and they do their big shebang on Saturday night, which is like a 4-hour theatrical show. And then pretty much every night after them, and on the shoulder nights, there's more of a electronic leaning headliner, right? So this year we have Disclosure, Grizz, Porter Robinson, Louis the Child, and then our other stage, Sherwood Court, is kind of like the second main stage, and that one looks directly into the forest. So it just has a different look and feel. And then we have the Triple E stage, which is an all DJ stage. So there's no real live bands on that stage. And then we have a large tent stage. So that one accommodates bands and DJs and has LED. So you kind of look at it with the production of the stage. What can it accommodate? What types of music is suitable for that? The stage in the forest called the Observatory, I kind of think of that as kind of like a a Fillmore type, you know, room in the middle of a forest. You know, has like tiered areas to watch shows. It's great for like afternoon reggae, bluegrass, roots, and then also, you know, sunset, like down tempo and like deep house and things like that. So I think it's a huge mix of vibe and music and art, and really kind of it's a massive puzzle. But now that we've been doing it for so long, there are certain elements that are you can plug in. Like on Friday night on Tripoli is our Bass Rush curated event, which is all bass, driven electronic music. So we like know what that looks like, and then we can counter program the other stages to not have that type of music on there.
Wow. Yeah, so that's definitely a huge puzzle to build every year.
Yeah, over 150 acts on the show. So it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of work, but super inspiring to see it unfold and see people obsessed with the experience. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the beauty of getting to book that many artists is that you can also book up and coming stuff that might not be, you know, the ticket selling,
Right.
Spotify streaming artists, but stuff that you really like and you think will go well and can expose people to. I think that's super fun to add as well.
Yeah. And so I also heard, so isn't Electric Forest kind of like the pioneering, like one of the first festivals, big festivals that were booking EDM? Or
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that in terms of American camping festivals,
Yeah.
you know, obviously, there's Bonnaroo, and I went to a few of the first few Bonnaroos when I was in college, and that was amazing for the festival scene in this country. But before that, there were all kinds of smaller regional camping festivals around the country that some of them still exist, but there used to be like a lot of them, a lot more regional ones. And there's still, the High Sierras and Peach and all kinds of great events throughout the country. Camp Bisco is a festival and was a festival that had a lot of jam and electronic music on it. And I would say that definitely in that space was pioneering. And then Electric Forest kind of built on top of what a lot of these festivals around the country kind of were already doing. Camp Bisco in the Northeast, Bonnaroo was very, jam forward in the South. And then looking at something in the Midwest, which didn't really exist. There was a festival called 10,000 Lakes back in the day that was, kind of jam centric. And putting together electronic music, like big headliners, I would say, like using kind of the style of headliners that would be on an EDC or working with Insomniac, and then bringing to the table what we did at Madison House Presents with different festivals that we would produce, like with String Cheese Incident, regional festivals at Horning's Hideout outside of Portland, and kind of taking the best of both of those worlds and putting those together on a really amazing site. That I think is what, was like the thing that made it click and go off.
yeah, that's an incredible combination. I saw an old clip. I'm not sure if this happens often, but I saw like Skrillex on stage with String Cheese.
Yeah.
And you would never really expect those two worlds to merge there, but
String Cheese has done a lot of really cool things with their different incidents. We did the Lauryn Hill incident at Electric Forest one year with Lauryn Hill and her band with String Cheese.
Wow.
They've played with Zach Brown not at Electric Forest, but at other events. Played with Skrillex. They've played with a lot of different kind of electronic. They play, with Dom from Big G, and Grizz has played with them, and just like a lot. They're a great band, and so they can do a lot of things.
do you think that Electric Forest played a part in bringing folks from the electronic scene, like closer to the jam scene?
Yeah, I do. I think especially in the Midwest, you see it, and I've been told this, so it's like anecdotally and from the artists that have played it, hey, we played this show and all of a sudden our fan base in the Midwest exploded. And we came back and we had all these people who said, we saw you at Electric Forest. And so the amount of times that I've heard that is really, really incredible to me. And I know that is impactful for a lot of, touring artists.
Wow. Yeah, I can't really think of another festival whose very specifically, focusing on two unlike genres and merging them together like so intentionally. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So speaking of growth with, how much Electric Forest has grown and what it's done to, oh wait, actually my dog is eating something strange.
Yeah, well, let me just take care of that.
Stand by. Just a rock. So, okay, all good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just eating some, pebbles. So back to AEG. And so how many years have you been at AEG for?
So I was there from 2006 to like 2008, and then was worked as an agent and manager and promoter at Madison House Presents until 2014, and then AEG Madison House Presents are under the same umbrella. So since 2014, back under that banner. Yeah.
Has there been any groups that you have been working closely with that you've really seen grow from nothing to something huge, or have really morphed in a way that you've kind of been along with for the ride?
Well, there's a lot of them that I've seen and that have kind of like grown up around the scene and that I've been able to like watch. I've only been, really on the full touring promoter side for a couple of years, and 2 of those years have been a pandemic. So that's interesting. But, there's artists like Louis the Child, who also, are from Chicago, and they went to Electric Forest in high school, and now they're headlining it this year, and they've played it a bunch of times on different stages and like kind of grown. And there's a lot of those types of acts. If you look over the years of people that I've worked with, Grizz, for example, love seeing those people who are incredible people, and great musicians, like growing and really now solidifying themselves as like headliners around the country.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, and obviously Goose, they didn't get to play it yet, but,
we'll get there.
We've seen their explosive growth the past couple of years as well, which is so great. And I'm a huge fan and definitely, have been to my fair share of Goose shows.
We'll get to that in a moment, which
okay.
I'm excited to dig into.
I want to jump the gun.
No. I mean, it is a Goose podcast after all. I mean, their tagline is like something about how it's not about Goose or something. I think it's a little play on words. I don't know. But anyway, we'll get back to that.
That's their tagline?
It's definitely not that what I just said.
We're going to have to dig into that and do a little like
we'll cut that out.
Check at the end.
A little fact check. Anyway, but yeah, no, the like managing global talent and touring during COVID must have been an absolute, very interesting experience.
Shit show.
Kind of a shit show is what I'm trying to say. So like, how did your team manage that? Like how did you shift gears and make, lemonade out of lemons, for lack of a better term?
There wasn't a lot of lemonade at the beginning, right? Just a lot of lemons, but because it was really hard to see, musicians and our friends and our community be out of work. Yeah. That was really, really, really tough and devastating, and knowing how, and the crew, right? Touring crew and all these people that we've worked with for so long that are so incredible at their jobs and have dedicated their lives to like supporting the art of live music on the road, suddenly had no work. And, it's just a lot of pressure, and I think everybody kind of felt the mental, strain of all of that. And also, as we know, like so much mental health crisis over it as well. It was just, the layers are super deep. So it was horrible. And then there was like, hope and light at the end of the tunnel, and like canceling shows and rescheduling them, over and over and over and over, yep. And pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and be like, okay, well, 6 months, we're going to be fine by August. Okay, well, let's start booking things for November or December. And then it was just, on and on and on. So there's so many people supporting those efforts around the country at every, company that works in music. And it was a pretty stressful undertaking to not know how many times you were going to have to rebook something and was it ever going to happen. And in many cases, that just like kept rolling until the end of 2021 and into 2022. And then obviously, now we're just adjusting to what that looks like. And we've been able to tour, and, people were doing the drive-in shows and different types of things as we moved through the pandemic, outdoors, and we figured it out eventually. But yeah, it wasn't all that fun at the beginning. It became more fun once we were able to do a little bit outside and kind of like reconvene. Then things became a little bit more tangible. I felt really bad for the people who were rebooking, huge events that for 2021, and then had to pull those down and redo them. It was not a good time for our business or for musicians. So everybody deserves a lot of credit.
Yes, I can't imagine. But something that's kind of cool that came out of the pandemic was Lively.
Yes, that was a saving grace for me. That was some lemonade.
Yes,
that was a big jug of lemonade. So Lively was something that I started the first week of the pandemic with Mark Brownstein, who's in the Disco Biscuits. He is my co-founder. It was called Live Lesson Masters for the first 6 months. Mark called me the first week of the pandemic when we were all just at home, like on Instagram Live, doing weird things that we were all trying to figure out. And he called me one night and said, "Hey, I put out a tweet to my fans asking them if they would want to take lessons with me. And I have like 250 DMs.
Oh my God.
And so this seems like something that people might be interested in while we're all out of work in our community and for our other friends." And I was like, okay, I think it was like 1 a.m. or 12 in LA, and Mark lives in Philly. So it was late. And I was like, call me in the morning and let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And he called me in the morning and we got on Zoom and we sat on Zoom, I think for 5 days straight, basically with like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And we built the first iteration of Lively, which was called Live Lesson Masters. And Mark and I called all of our, friends in the community and in the scene. And we're like, hey, okay, we think there's something here. You want to get in the boat and like see if it works? And it did. And we were able to support a lot of our friends through the pandemic, connecting them with their fans for one-on-one and small group experiences, doing DJ shows and private acoustic sets and, lessons and meet and greets and little group chills and Q&As. And we relaunched it as Lively with a team of people that we were able to hire through the pandemic, many of whom still work for us. Now we have engineers and we have a real platform, not something that I built, that I had never done anything technical really before. And it's been an incredible journey. And now it's totally transformed into like kind of, this post-pandemic fan club live, you can still take lessons, you can still do meet and greets, but we're adding new features every day. And we have a big Web3 component to unlock experiences with NFTs. And Mark's really been instrumental in leading the charge on so many of these initiatives. And he's just, I can't say enough good things about him.
Oh, that's incredible. So yeah, there's definitely some good things that came out of the pandemic. Obviously it was very tough, but like you said, the post-pandemic world, it's really interesting because all of these remote experiences were built. And I think that there's still a big market for them because, even though we can be in person a little more now, we're still in different places around the country and around the world. And I think it really did unlock a door for these experiences to continue to flourish. And Lively is just so cool. I mean, I remember watching Rick teach lessons during the pandemic, and it was really funny. I mean, just the pandemic culture in general of working from home, doing business meetings from home, like you're wearing a nice shirt and like pajama pants and,
or no pants,
or just totally naked. But yeah, it's funny because also Rick is not he's, kind of a little bit of an introvert, like a little, and he'll admit that too. But I think it was definitely interesting for him to hop on these intimate sessions with people, and it's just one-on-one, like very intense. And, they're a big fan. It's an amazing moment for them. But when he finally got into the swing of it, he, built relationships with a few, clients, and they had this really special thing, and he would get really excited for particular lessons each week.
You're seeing how much they progressed, right? It's like so cool when you like see someone learn something and then they do it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this really funny story actually of with this one guy that was taking lessons with Rick. I think it was Mother's Day back in I think 2020, I guess. Yeah. And their lesson was about to end, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, can you actually sing, I have a huge request. Can you sing Escape for my mom? She's right here." So obviously, and I was standing right there behind him folding laundry, or in front of him. And I was like, "You need to say yes. Like, if you say no, like it's
you're going to ruin Mother's Day."
Like, it's literally this guy and his mother, and he's asking you live, like, "Can you sing Escape?" And so I was like looking at Rick, I was like, "You better say yes." And so he did play it, he played Escape on his guitar, and I peeked around at the screen to look at the faces of these people, and it was just, yeah, like best moment ever. And I have to say that was one of my favorite COVID memories of, that barrier kind of being broken between, like different states in the US, and you're just having this intimate experience and learning music, and super cool.
Yeah. Well, shout out to that guy. Hope your mom liked that.
Yes, I forgot his name, but I think...
It's okay. He's probably listening.
Yeah. I think it was life-changing. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and people needed that, right? So bad. I mean, not only did people need it, but I won't speak for Rick, but you can. But, I know other people that are on Lively and all the musicians and people that I'm friends with, they needed it. Right? There's something about being a touring musician. If you play live and you're an improvisational artist and you're constantly having this musical conversation between your band members and your fans that are super engaged, and then you're cut off. Yeah. Then you get, you're lacking a huge piece of connection in your life that you're used to. And so when that went away, I think it really was pretty devastating.
Yeah.
And being able to have a little piece of that in whatever form is, healing, and I think was super helpful and really was able to like allow us to continue, because that didn't really exist before. And then all of a sudden this new thing was there, and now figuring out ways to integrate it into like the current touring landscape. What does that look like? And how do you keep engaging with your fans? Because instead of just doing like a meet and greet on tour that night with whoever is in that city, the possibilities are just like way, way deeper. And I think it opened up people's minds and management and agents and everybody who works in the business to really think outside the box on what can we do virtually to really add a lot of value for fans and artists.
Yeah. And especially in the jam scene, because, certain genres that are so reliant on the live experience, I feel like a band like Goose, obviously they have great recorded studio albums and whatnot, but it's really the live concert experience that people are so inspired about and so passionate about. So yeah, just, I guess, reiterating, but super cool. Well, shout out Lively.
Thanks, yeah.
Gonna shift gears here. So obviously the reason, or one of the reasons why we're both here right now, is because this is a Goose Girls takeover, as the great Beyond likes to say. And we are both women identifying folks. So that's why we're here. And
we're Goose Girls.
We're Goose Girls. Yeah, that's what it comes down to, I guess. But sometimes I get frustrated when I hear these questions about like, how does it feel like being a woman in XYZ? Because it's like, what, like, why can't we just get treated and asked the same questions that men get asked, in the industry? But
is this the hard hitting part of the interview?
This is the peak here.
You're going to ask some real manly questions now.
Things are going to get dark. No, I'm just kidding. But the fact of the matter is that it is important, I guess, to speak about being a woman in the industry, because, oftentimes women are treated very differently and paid differently and are given a different amount of access to the industry beforehand, and may have to work a little harder to prove yourself just because of the way our world has been built and our culture has been built. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to ask you about
the patriarchy.
The patriarchy. Yeah.
Right.
Tell me everything, start to finish, about your experience with the patriarchy, like every aspect of your life.
Okay. Well, you're right. It is a thing, right? It is a thing for all women. And as we're seeing right now, with, abortion bans coming back, who would have thought, there's just, we can't even scratch the surface. I've been super lucky in this business to be extremely supported by many men and women. And a lot of my mentors are, incredible men who've opened up doors and kicked down doors for me and given me opportunities, as well as women. And I think that's not everyone's experience.
Right.
And also I've had women tell me that maybe I have rose-colored glasses on sometimes about it, because they'll like point something out to me that maybe I don't even think about. Like, see, you are experiencing sexism in this specific scenario, because that wouldn't happen if you were a man. We wouldn't even be talking about this, concept, whatever it is, if you were a man. And that's true. It really is. And I think in the workplace in general, but specifically in entertainment, I know, I have friends who've told me that they have had, comments made about their outfits or, whatever, just stupid things that would never take place. I can think of a lot of like small examples. I have not ever experienced any sort of like dangerous situation or something that made me feel, really uncomfortable physically or emotionally as stemming from like the music business or experience on the road. I've been really fortunate. I've had amazing experiences, and but I know a lot of people have had different ones, especially female crew members, touring. I think that's changed a lot in the past. I don't know. I don't want to quantify it, but let's say 5 years, right? Like I've definitely seen a shift. There's so many more women out on the road touring. Goose has a female tour manager. There's just more representation and more opportunity. And obviously, the more diversity of gender and thought and race and everything that you have on your team, the better you're going to be. Like, we know that. We see it. When you have more diversity amongst your team, everybody is lifted up. When you have all straight white men on your team, like, there's only going to be a certain direction that things are going to go, and a certain kind of level of thinking that isn't their fault. That's just, they're all brought up very similarly. And so you're not going to have, necessarily a ton of diverse opinions on the grand scale. Yeah, it's tough. It's still tough. And I just try to really be an advocate for the women that I work with and give them kind of the same experiences or even better experiences than what I had. Because looking back, I can see like little things, right? I didn't necessarily have a lot of female peers that we could talk about a lot of things together, things were just different, 15 years ago when I was getting started. And now there's so much more opportunity. Diversity is a thing that's talked about at work. And there are certain expectations, thankfully, that are put into place, and things that are no longer deemed appropriate. And people will call out if they happen or if they see them happen. And people know that there are consequences for your actions that might not have always been there before. And, I'm certainly no fan of cancel culture. I think it's, not a great direction for us to go in whatsoever. I think that there's a lot better mechanisms out there for healing and reconciliation and positive growth, because, all of these things are cultural, right? So we can't just change them like one reprimanding one person at a time. It's going to take like a lot more to shift the culture. But I feel super lucky to work with amazing women on my team, have amazing peers, have amazing young women, female buyers that I work with, talent buyers, and try to like just be an advocate for them in meetings where they are, where they're not. You know, I think a big thing is credit, giving women credit that they deserve, not stealing their ideas, not talking, you know, over them, and just like little things that really will make like big shifts. You know, we can make a long list. We can post it in the comments.
Yeah.
things you can do.
No, that was an incredible answer. Thank you so much for unfolding that and talking about your experience and stuff. What I wanted to ask you next was if you were to give advice to a young woman getting her start in the industry, what advice would you give? And maybe through the perspective of yourself back in the day when you were just getting started, what advice you would give yourself?
A lot. But things that have served me really well are that I did a lot of different things. I worked in artist hospitality. I was a runner. I learned how to settle shows. I worked on the agency side. I worked as a manager. I went on tour. I worked in the office. I sent faxes, you know, a lot of different things to kind of like really figure out what you want to do. There's so many facets of this business. There's so many people that it takes to have a band's touring career run on all sides, right? Legal, publishing, label, streaming, I mean, marketing, digital. It's so endless now. And there's so many more opportunities to be involved in live music, if that's something that you love, that you can kind of take almost any skill set and apply it, right? You want to be a lawyer, you could be a music lawyer, you know, and I think really finding people that will, you know, not necessarily be your like lifelong mentor, but people that you can connect with and find out what they do, how do they do it, and investing time and energy. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like working super hard will get you, you know, where you want to be at some point.
Yeah.
Especially if you have people helping you. I mean, that's really the key is connections, relationships. And, you know, if you want to work in a venue, like work in the box office, work for the caterer, work for the backstage hospitality person, you'll meet so many people that way. And just show up, you know, with integrity, and you'll be good. You know, there's a lot of jobs available in the business, and it's really just about making yourself useful and helpful and indispensable, just kind of like in anything else, but especially in a business like this where everything is very, you know, there's so many variables in real time that change, or things that can happen, or, you know, you have an outdoor event and there's weather, being nimble, being flexible. And also I would say, if I had to give myself any advice, something that has really changed my life during the pandemic is meditation.
Oh.
I mean, I'm a way better person now because of that.
How
Shout
often
out.
meditate?
I mean, I try to every day, you know, but that I probably would have caused myself a lot less suffering if I had started that a long time ago.
I'm trying. I mean, meditation is one of those things where every year I tell myself, this year I'm going to try to meditate, and Rick has been getting into it a lot more. But yeah, I have a few times in the past few months, but you know, I think really doing it every day is when it starts to give back to you. Is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely so helpful if you work in any high stress situation, or, you know, if you're a human being on the planet right now in 2022. I think that's my advice to everyone.
Wow. So so you mentioned, you know, having someone that was helping you kind of through everything. And having a mentor of sorts in the industry to kind of, give you advice when you need. Was there someone super influential to you? Or I'm sure there's a handful of people, but does anything stick out to you right now? An older person who kind of showed you the ropes and influenced your growth.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely there's a list, right? And it changes throughout. For some people, maybe you have the same one your whole life, but I think as you go through different stages, like maybe different people are what you need at different times. When I first moved out to Colorado, and I worked for Don Strasberg, I'm so fortunate to have worked for him. Huge mentor in my life. And also Eric Pirrett, who I worked with and who's still a great friend. And he is a president at Live Nation now, but we all used to work together. And Don it runs the Rocky Mountain region and the Pacific Northwest for AEG. And then at Madison House, I worked with all the partners there, Jeremy Stein, Nadia Pressure, Jesse Arito, who I worked for as his assistant, and he passed away in December. And he was a major influence on me in terms of what he brought to the business as a manager, as an agent, and like the legacy that he left behind of doing everything with like compassion. I mean, there are so many people who don't behave in that way in this business, and Jesse was just like a pillar of like the biggest, strongest, most amazing guy with like the softest heart, who was touring and an agent and a manager, and he was really, really special to me. And then someone who is my age, but also I think of as not a mentor, but like I don't know what you call it. Well, she's my best friend, but we work together. Darcy Johnson. I've been so lucky to work with someone who's become my best friend and who's a woman in the business, and we get to like kind of go through the journey together. That's been pretty special to have. Shout
out Darcy.
Yep. Goose Girl.
Goose Girls. We'll have her on next. Well, this is that time of the interview where we just sprinkle in a little bit of goose for a moment.
Great.
Just to kind of close it up. But yeah, so when was your first goose show?
My first goose show, let's see. I'm guessing it was probably in 2019 or maybe the end of 2018.
Oh, wow.
This is where things get fuzzy.
Yeah.
Thinking back before the pandemic. I'm probably the beginning of 2019.
Wow. Do you remember what room it was or festival?
I don't.
I
don't. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, I think that's a really special time to have seen your first goose show because that's, right as they were really getting that momentum.
Exactly. Yeah, it was right at that time. And I have friends obviously who work with them and on their management team, and so I was like early to the party in terms of their growth hitting more like mainstream stuff because I was around it and being told like you have to go see this band, you have to listen to this band, you need to listen to the streams and I'm like, damn, this is good.
Yeah,
this guy can sing, this Rick.
Yeah, this guy has pipes,
He does.
He does. Yeah.
And you know what? I needed a new jam band to sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
And they came at the perfect time.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people say. Like Goose came around at the time that they were looking for the next thing, kind of. But yeah, my first show, I think, was December 2018. Yes, at the Goosemiss they had at this little bar in Norwalk.
Okay, so mine was definitely in 2019 then.
Okay, yes.
Great. Thank you for bookmarking that for me.
No, but it does really blend together. It's it's such an exciting last few years, but it is hard to kind of like index it there. But how would you compare just with how many shows you go to and how much you're traveling and how many festivals you're going to for work and pleasure and everything in between? How do you compare the experience or the energy that you feel, backstage at the Goose show and what you see on stage, and what are some like nuances that you've picked up on in the Goose world, the Goose universe?
It is fun. It is joyful. It is, I think, something that I've picked up on is that, there's a lot of women there too, which I love. And like my female friends love it just as much. And I think that for me, that's great to be able to turn people onto this band and be like, okay, listen to these songs. And then they're like, oh yes, like I want to go and see it with you. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, just being able to kind of like build a new community and have a new thing to go to, have more options. I went to Goosemas Revisited this year, post Christmas Goosemas, and that was so fun. Seeing them in an indoor room with a big light show. It was just like such a fun weekend.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think it was actually good that it ended up being pushed, because that first Goosemas could have ended up being like a major super spreader event, but I don't know. I think everything happens for a reason. So, hey.
Definitely agree with that.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Alicia. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of hit all my points here. Do you have anything that you would like to say to the world of the Great Beyond and Goose Girls and just, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, keep showing up, keep supporting your favorite band. It's tough out there, and I'm so glad that we're all getting back on the road and seeing each other. And I just think this summer is going to be one for the record books, and we can look back on it. And I think it's going to be a major, moment where everybody's reconnecting with their friends and pretty much having hopefully like one of the best, times in recent memory. So I'll just say that. Let me know if that's true in a few months for everyone, if this is the best summer of your life.
We'll do a revisit in September and see if it
Perfect.
was. I'll see you at Westville, right?
Yeah. See you soon.
See you soon. Yeah, I'm not sure when this episode will be released, but, oh well. Thank you for coming on here, Alicia. And just thanks for your time and sharing all your stories. And that's it for the Goose Girls Takeover, or at least the first one for now. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, talk soon.
Bye.
The Great Beyond is presented by Osiris Media and engineered by Greg Knight from his apartment in Brooklyn, New York. A huge thank you to my co-host Julia Mitri, my amazing guest Alicia Karlin, and most of all, you the listeners for tuning in. Be sure to catch a ride with us next time down the pathway to the Great Beyond.
Osiris.